This video, the sheriff says it shows McGee purchasing the Ozark Trail utility rope from the self-checkout lane at the Walmart in Henderson. You can then see him walking out of the store with the rope in his hand, and at one point he even tosses it into the air.
But I'm getting too nice with this. Ain't no way that I'm going outside. My pockets been heavy as shit.
What's poppin', M2T? It's your boy Ron on the channel to be. Don't forget to hit that like, comment, share, and subscribe button whenever you pull up to the channel. And while you at it, hit that post notification button for your boy so whenever I drop, you can hop up in the truck and roll with me. See what's poppin'. Man, I appreciate you guys pulling up on me today, fam. I appreciate y'all love. I appreciate y'all support. Y'all can be doing other things, but y'all decide to pull up on your boy today and hop in the truck with me just to see what's going on, man. I appreciate that, fam. Today, we have a really good story for you guys today. And without any further ado, we go get right on into it. Today, the sheriff's office released footage of Javion while he was off inside of the Walmart. So, check this out.
Death investigation underway in Vance County. Last week, Eyewitness News reported on the death of a young truck driver from the Chicago area who was found against a tree with a rope around his neck. Today, the sheriff releasing video showing the moments Javion McGee bought that rope, the sheriff says was used in his. Take a look at this video. The sheriff says it shows McGee purchasing the Ozark Trail utility rope from the self-checkout lane at the Walmart in Henderson. You can then see him walking out of the store with the rope in his hand, and at one point he even tosses it into the air. McGee was found dead last Wednesday in a wooded area off Vanco Mill Road in Henderson. Investigators say he wasn't far from his truck, leaning with his back up against a tree and a rope around his neck. The cause of death is still under investigation, but the sheriff says there is no evidence McGee was the victim of a crime.
I gotta straight tell you, from the looks of it, to me, it seemed like Javion is in a good mood. As y'all can even see yourself, when he come up out of there, he throwing the rope in the air, you know what I mean? So, I mean, it just seemed like he was real. He was in good spirits. That's just my opinion. Also, today, this afternoon, Javion's mom and dad did a press conference. They brought their legal representation with them to help them get answers, to figure out what happened to their son. And I don't know what parent, white, black, Hispanic, Asian, Middle Eastern, African, I don't care what culture or nationality you is. I don't know what parent that son just passed all of a sudden who wouldn't want to know what happened with their son. Yeah, the sheriff said this. Yeah, detective said that. You know, I'm gonna do everything I can in my might to get every single answer that I can get until I get some solidification in what it is that happened to my child. And so I can't blame them for doing that. They went and got a legal team, and it's a legal team of some very prestigious people. They did a press conference today, and I want to give you guys a rundown of it and let you guys see how it went. Check it out.
Like I said, the facts are still working its way out, but we do know that he was found from a tree. Now, I know there have been some statements from the sheriff concerning what's considered a hanging, but I'll show you the pictures that we saw. It's very clear that he was hanging. Not in the manner which you may saw in the 60s and the 20s and 30s, but it's nothing to take away from it. We are here for one reason only, and that sign says very clear, get justice for Javion and the McGee family. To ensure that we get transparency in this process, I know the sheriff, they have sent this case over to the State Bureau of Investigation, Attorney General, to do a further investigation in this particular matter. At this time, let me be very clear, the manner and the cause of death of Javion has not been determined at this time. The manner and cause of death has not been determined. So for any suggestion that it's a suicide, anybody stating that it was a suicide would be grossly premature, right, Lee?
That's correct.
Grossly premature. Well, we do know we have a young black man from a tree in North Carolina. When I say not a traditional feet dangling, but nevertheless, a tree was tied to his neck, around his neck, and tied to a tree. So the next steps here, obviously, continued transparency from the sheriff's office. His family came over from Chicago and Texas. You can imagine the phone call they received about the loss of their son, Javion. which was something that no parent should receive. No parent should have to bury their child whatsoever under any circumstances. But we are here to ensure that the investigation move forward. I don't care if it's in Vance County, Chicago, Illinois, Los Angeles, California. You would not call a family and tell them an investigation is not complete. That's invoked at Lee and myself, Jason, and other attorneys and civil rights activists to come here to make sure the investigations is carried out properly. Because anybody, it don't matter who you are, if somebody receive a phone call as such troubling as this and say, hey, this is what we believe would happen, come get your loved one, that's a red flag. The parents they didn't have the opportunity to see the or any pictures to even identify Javion. Today was the first day they saw pictures to identify there was in fact Javion. So we need to make sure throughout this entire process, wherever the facts result may lead, we need to make sure it's a thorough investigation. One thing we can be very clear, no matter what the findings are or an investigation, nobody can say exactly what happened at that particular time. I wasn't there. The sheriff or whoever does the investigation was not there. We don't have a video of that. But we do know that, like I stated before, Javion had a rope around his neck, and that rope was tied to a tree. The tree is about, 8 feet off the ground? The limb about 8 feet off the ground, Lee?
Yes, sir.
So, with that being said, we're going to have more questions. I'm going to bring up Jason, and I think, anybody want for the family speak? Okay. All right, we're going to bring up Jason Keith. He's a local council in North Carolina.
First of all, look, I would like to say we would like to thank Lee Merritt, Harry Daniels, and this is Andrew Covington with me for coming. You might ask, why are we here? Accountability, transparency. The community needs answers, and we're here to apply pressure. Lee has flown in from Texas. Harry's flown in from Georgia. I'm out of Greensboro. Covington's out of Raleigh. We're here for answers, and we're not leaving till we get them. The family deserves them. And we've seen the videos, we've seen the photographs, and this investigation is not complete. This investigation is too premature for any determination to be made what happened. What we want is we want answers. We want them now. We want them as soon as possible. And we want the system to work, because this family should not be in a position where they get a phone call about this young man coming into this county, working his job, and that he's found from a tree. And the pictures, it's horrible. And this county deserves to explain, to spend the resources to let us know every detail of what happened. And that's what we're here for. And so I think Harry was right. I think Lee was right. I think Covington, everybody, we're here to apply pressure, and that's what we're going to do. And we're going to stay as long as it takes. And we're going to talk to who we need to talk to, and we're going to make as much noise as we need to get answers, to get the truth, and to make sure there's justice for Javion.
Right. Sir, please. Go ahead.
Like the other council said, we're here to get answers and justice, and we're not going to leave until we get that. There's no reason why we don't already have these answers, and we're going to work as hard as we can until we get them.
Thank you. A moment ago, Lieutenant Bishop from the Vance County Sheriff's Department spoke with the family at length. The meeting lasted about 2 hours, where we began to get into the actual evidence that's currently in their possession. Some significant points were made. I'm open to any questions that you all might have about that. One thing that we found conclusively, and I'll back up a moment ago, as I mentioned, my name is Lee Merritt. I'm a civil rights attorney. The reason that the family has asked me to be a part of this case is because we're not investigating a personal injury case or a wrongful death case. We're investigating the of a young man in 2024. It would be a misnomer to say that kind of thing doesn't happen anymore. We saw a public murder of Ahmaud Arbery. We've seen public or the racialized killings of individuals, and it's something that needs to continue to be investigated and taken seriously. Unfortunately, in this country, we haven't dealt with our ghosts of racism And so we often want to sweep it under the rug. The family has brought in these attorneys to ensure that that does not happen. Concerning what we have found, the medical examiner's report determined that there was bruising along the neck and a broken neck bone, which means that he indeed, we're learning, we're working on gathering additional evidence to see what that actually means. I'll stop there and open it up to myself or the attorneys or any of the members of the family for questions.
So you just used the word lynching. Hate crime has also been thrown out there. What makes you think that's the case as opposed to other possibilities at this point?
Yeah, I don't think it's the case. To answer your question, I don't know that or hate crime is in fact the case. What we discovered was that Mr. McGee came into this county on September 11th and he died by hanging from his neck. The sheriff concluded early on, and we believe prematurely, that it seemed to be a suicide to him. Well, that doesn't seem to be a suicide for me. I don't know too many 21-year-old gainfully employed happy individuals that travel into North Carolina, buy a rope and themselves. That would be an oddity. It's a possibility. But we would need more evidence before we jump to that conclusion. My job, the reason I was hired, was to investigate the possibility of a hate crime and to direct the family to wherever the evidence goes.
You know, we've heard a little bit from the sheriff about the timetable leading up to this, but as you mentioned, not entirely forthcoming. Can you kind of put together, at least from the family standpoint, the beforehand, you know, when was the last time he was in contact with them and kind of the timetable that you've been able to figure out?
Sure thing, thank you.
Yeah, the sheriff should be releasing a detailed timeline today to the media. I don't know if they'll be having a press conference themselves, but they have indicated to us that a timeline will be released as best as they can gather, do their investigation. So, as relates, speaking to the family, it's my understanding Javion was cited by going to Houston, Texas, and spending times with his cousins. So there's no indication whatsoever that he had any ulterior motives or ulterior thoughts as to whether, you know, he had any thoughts of self-demise. So there's nothing here, and this is, let me be very clear. This is why Mr. McGee, Ms. Roberson, and her husband are here. The family's here because there's no indication whatsoever the 21 years he was on Earth that they brought him here and raised him to show any signs that he would commit suicide. That's why they're here. So to be very clear, there's nothing, no mental health, anything that capacity, no depression. And like Lee said, a 21-year-old is working, gainfully employed, gonna come to rural North Carolina and say, you know what, I'm gonna end it all here. Doesn't make sense. Any other questions?
And from the family reviewing the Walmart surveillance video, I mean, that's the last video that we've seen of that. Just no one knows him better than his family. To have been able to figure out anything from his demeanor or thoughts on that?
The Walmart video, that's the last video that y'all have seen,
right,
as the media have seen this time. But it's other videos that the family have in fact received for his going to the Hampton Inn. The question is, what was he doing there in that location? Well, he went to the Hampton Inn. They had no room. So he went to where traditionally truck drivers that's coming through here would go. And normally, if you would go, it doesn't make sense to go around where other truck drivers will be at to go kill yourself. If you're going to, so you find a road down here that nobody's down and you do it down there. I mean, it does, the facts and the things doesn't make sense as to a mentality, a mindset of a person who's wanting to kill himself. Now I understand about the buying a rope at Walmart as a truck driver. It's a lot of reasonable explanations for that. You know, you got a lot of times these trucks, and Dad is a seasoned truck driver. A lot of trucks have universal keys that other doors, other keys from other trucks can open if it's the same make and model. So if I'm sleeping in the middle of nowhere, you got to think about it. If you're sleeping in the middle of nowhere in a truck and somebody else can possibly get in your truck, you go around safety with numbers. So it's a lot of reasonable explanations that we believe why a rope was purchased. You know, I know with the optics, it looks like you get a rope, the next thing you found a tree. And if somebody can jump that conclusion. But look, you know, I went to school in North Carolina Central School of Law. I think it's the best law school in the nation. It's definitely North Carolina. You don't jump, now I know you might not agree, you don't jump from buying a rope at Walmart and somebody say they committed suicide. We got things called evidence and facts that we must go through. And what was lacked here at the beginning of his family, the evidence, the facts have not been developed before you make a conclusion that he killed himself. Not on my watch, not on Lee's watch. And that's exactly why we're here to support this family.
I want to just further your question concerning the timeline. And it's important that the sheriff's office should release a timeline. There's evidence, there's witnesses, there's additional video showing up to almost hours before its death. And so there is a more clear timeline. I'm sorry, from the time that we suppose that his death took place. So, yes, sir.
Is there any physical evidence that he was physically beat? Is there any evidence that he was physically beat in his face or around his body area?
We are still in the investigation terms, gathering evidence concerning whether or not he was assaulted. In terms of his physical body, there's bruising about his body that could be consistent with him from a tree and being exposed to the elements for an extended period of time. There's also an additional way to translate that evidence to say that he was bruised or hurt or injured by others.
Yeah, are you pursuing an independent autopsy?
At this time, no.
Depending on what's found in this investigation, are you guys planning on filing some kind of
Just want every legal option, maybe
that nature moving forward?
Yes, ma'am. Depending on the outcome of the investigation, we are speaking with the family and considering additional legal action.
Question. Based on what the sheriff is saying, is he able to say more to the public, or he's pretty much limited what he can say to the public?
Well, I don't necessarily think he's limited what he can say to the public. You got to be mindful that this is an ongoing investigation. You don't want certain things that put out there to disturb that investigation. So those are things that understand as law enforcement that you don't want to put certain things out just in case you have a lead for a possible suspect. So we definitely appreciate and understand that aspect. But this is something that also that we have taken consideration. As this thing continue to play out and more evidence come in, and if authorities, maybe need additional help, that's something we may be seeking redress from the Department of Justice to trigger the Federal Bureau of Investigation come in, because they are usually the lead people to investigate these type of matters, especially when you're talking about a hate crime, specifically in the federal laws. I don't know if North Carolina have any hate crime statutes or things that capacity, but I know the federal government, the federal codes, in fact, do, and that's something we may be invoking, considering what the facts and the evidence may lead us.
Concerning the sheriff's statements to the public, I think that the sheriff has been rather cavalier about the evidence that he chose to release, and he's released in a very piecemeal manner that has actually caused this confusion. I find it distracting that he seems to be more focused on what's being said on TikTok than his responsibility here as the sheriff to get to the bottom of the what happened and then get that information quickly to the family, even before he gets them to the media. I would advise him not to do that or to change his practice concerning that.
Y'all have privilege of the information that the public does not?
Yes.
Any other questions? Look, you try to hold a question to the media. I know you may a lot of people have questions, but any media have different questions.
When was the last time that the family spoke to Javion before he made his way to
When the last time y'all talked to him?
I talked to him maybe a couple of days before this happened.
According to Dad, a couple of days before it happened. Any other questions?
So the sheriff or the representative for the family said that in the preliminary information that they had gotten regarding the autopsy, that there was nothing found under the fingernails, and that
I'm sorry. Who said that?
The family representative, Candace Matthews.
Okay.
And she said that there was nothing found under the fingernails, and that was more cause for a suspect of foul play. Why is that? And if that's the case, why aren't you guys seeking your own separate autopsy?
Well, I think the question is, why is there any, you say independent wounds or anything, defensive wounds? I think that's what you're referring to. It's my understanding from the investigators and from the preliminary findings, there was nothing to that capacity. Just because they have not been done this time don't mean it's not ruled out. I think the family now is in possession of Javion's, and we're going to explore every angle, position to determine what happened. And I think from the initial statements we made, it might have been premature, but here we are the representatives of the family, and anything that happens moving forward, we want to speak on behalf of the family.
And I'm sorry, at this time we have not performed an independent autopsy as the and in the possession of the medical examiner. We are in the process of recovering. The family does plan to move forward with an independent autopsy at that time. What we have been told is what you've heard from the sheriff, that there were no defensive wounds on the. Thank you.
We do know that Javion was traveling and had stopped at that Walmart. Do we know where his final destination was or where he was planning on going?
Well, according to the timeline, he was going to the Hampton Inn here, and I don't know where it's exactly located at, but that Hampton Inn is fairly close to the Walmart Supercenter here. I think about a half a mile after that. That was his intentions. He went there. He got out of his truck. He walked. It's on camera. He walked in with his bag, his belongings, and he had a brief conversation with the clerk. And to my understanding, upon investigation by the Vance County Sheriff's Office, that the clerk told him that there was no vacancies, no availability. So those are things that that we believe that he had intentions to stay there, but for the vacancies, he ended up going to. And it's not a truck stop. Let me be very clear. It's a commonly known area, I guess, where truckers go. I think, yeah. So I think the truck stop thing is not really a truck stop. So he went over there, and that's a normal practice for people that's hauling loads through here that would stop over there. So at some point, he obviously knew that that is a location. And usually truckers, and Dad can tell you this, truckers feel safer in numbers. You know, it doesn't make sense for a person who had this ideology or mindset to come around with other people with safety numbers. So, I mean, in that case, the person you need to be safe from is yourself. Why would you go around other people?
Based on the other surveillance videos that you guys have seen, are there other people, or is there another person that people should be looking for, that investigators are looking for? Any cell phone records, any indication that he has any other ties maybe, or there was another person involved?
It's other people that had an opportunity to speak to Javion as such, so they have taken to speak to those people concerning those leads. However, as relates to other surveillance videos dealing with any suspects, not at this time, not that we have been shown. It doesn't mean it won't develop. Like I told you guys before, you go to Walmart or whatever the case may be, and you go there, you purchase a rope, and you end up being from a tree. You know, it's a lot of questions that's in between. Anything that transpired in between, it concerns that things to be considered. But at the end of the day, our main focus here, and don't take anything away from this. Find out what happened to Javion. This family is not here to point the fingers at the sheriff's office. They want to find out what happened. Wherever that evidence may lead, that's something they can deal with. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is that we are here, you are here, to ensure transparency move forward. Because anybody, family, black, white, it doesn't matter race, religion, you will want a thorough investigation to take place for your loved one. Mm-hmm. You want to know. You want to know what happened, because that's a sign. That's a start of healing. You have missing persons. People never found for years. Family can't truly heal until they find out. I don't care what it is. So we need to know this family's here, poised, standing here. They have brought us on, and like I said, we're not here to throw darts at anybody, but we are going to throw darts for a lack of transparency and a quick statement to say this.
Do we know what his, had this not happened, what the rest of his route was supposed to look like after he was done in Henderson, or when he was supposed to get back to Chicago, if all had gone normal? We
don't necessarily have that information. I know he dropped a load here at the Walmart Distribution Center. Like I told you before, he was anticipating to come to Texas to spend time with his cousins. So for a further route, we don't know particularly. That's something that we'll learn moving forward. At the time, his trailer his tractor did not have a trailer, correct? So there was no trailer on the tractor. So whatever load that was already dropped. So we don't know the exact next route. So any other questions?
Do we know if there were any other truckers parked in that area that night?
Yes. Yes, I believe there's other truckers parked in the area. From my understanding, you understand? From my understanding, other truckers.
Any idea how many?
Not at this time.
6 or dozen?
We don't know. We don't know. All right, one more question.
Would the family like to just share about him as a person in general? I mean, obviously, everybody's really invested in his story.
I think normally, but at this time, I think this family, considering what they just heard from the law enforcement, and I think that give it time later on, they would be able to speak out personally themselves about Javion. But just know this: it's an ongoing investigation. No manner of cause of death. And we seek a transparency of truth. So, with that being said, Lee.
Just one moment. And the family did want to make one statement before they took off. So each member of the family is going to step here. They're going to make a brief statement. They're not going to take any questions. Thank you. Please come on. All together, please. Shoulder to shoulder. There you go. I'll be behind you.
I just ask that you guys keep us in prayer.
I do want to tell I want to thank you guys for your support. Everybody, the world, whoever's seeing, I appreciate. Everybody just swiftly supported, and that helped us, to keep us up in our spirits. Nobody out here wanted to hear this kind of news. Nobody, white, black, any nationality, want to hear this kind of news in 2024. Figured we was done with this. We're not, like you said, we're not pointing any fingers because it's still under investigation. But I do want to let you know what kind of person Javion was. He was very competitive, and when he started driving trucks, I didn't force him to drive trucks. He came to me. He saw my struggle with the trucking industry and having a company, and how now everything is pretty much down, and he saw me go up and he saw me come down. And then I guess he took it upon himself to step up, because I said, we as black people, we don't have nobody we can put other people on to businesses. Like most companies, these big companies, it's generations that form these companies, but they start as one or maybe two people, and they grow. And so I didn't have nobody to push that on. And he was one of the first people that say, hey, Dad, I'm about to go drive, And I'm like, wow, well, what make you want to do that? He said, I just want to do it. I want to put in my work. And that's just how he was. He wanted everybody to be together. That was his heart. Always, everybody just to come together. And so if this moment can spark anything, if I can tap into him, I would say he wants this country to come together. Not all this divide and stuff. We all need to come together, because if it wasn't no divide, this wouldn't have happened. And I feel like, honestly, if he wasn't here, he would still be alive.
Thank you.
God bless.
God bless you.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
We'll take it back.
Now, as y'all can see, like they said, Javion, he had plans to come into Houston to kick it with his cousins. They had talked to him. He was excited about being in the trucking industry, as his pops got trucking industry history. You know what I mean? His dad say, he was good. You know what I mean? And I can't blame his parents, man. His dad said it straight up. I feel like if my son wouldn't have been out here, my son would still be alive. You know how I feel him, you know what I mean? On one end, it's kind of like, dang, is it like a situation where he took his own life? You know what I mean? But on the other end, it's like, man, this stuff is suspect, As the legal representations was saying, Sheriff putting out there already that, he took his own life, like, you can't just put that out there, man, and you ain't got no die-hard facts. They was even saying that from the footage, they said we haven't seen all the footage, from what they have seen. They only going to show the public so much. And that's what they do. They always do that. If you don't have nobody to get in there and represent you and get deep up off in there to get the answers and stuff that you need, footage, telephone calls, 911 calls, any evidence that that's due to you, but that law enforcement and administration is prone to holding from you, you got to get your legal representation, man. Straight up, fam. Straight up. And that's what they did, and they got some answers. So it's some new things that we didn't know. Like one of them said that, they got, they got footage of him, when he was actually, up on the tree, not feet or nothing dangling. His feet wasn't dangling, but he said the rope was on the tree and the rope was on his neck. That's what he said, the legal representation. We didn't know that. You know what I mean? I don't even think we would have knew about this Walmart footage had that legal representation. As y'all can see, they from everywhere. They from everywhere. Georgia, North Carolina, Texas, they from everywhere. Had they not stepped in, I don't even think the footage would have been released as fast as it was. That's just my opinion. You know, so, you know, I applaud Javion family for wanting answers about what it is that happened to their sons. You know, I have my vision of what I think, and really I can't even call it, you know what I mean? Because it's a possibility that he could have, you know, taken his own life. It's just hard for me to kind of see that, man, from how everybody's speaking so highly of him. You know, is it possible? Yes, but it's just hard for me to see that. Because when something like that happened, you know what I mean? You know, and if you do fall, you dead weight. Your body is not sitting up perfect, you know what I'm saying, against no, that ain't happening. You know what I mean? Gravity is not going to even allow it to happen like that. That's just my opinion. So, you know, I want to applaud his mom and his dad for getting out there. And like she said, you know, pray for them. You know what I mean? Pray for them. If you're a praying person, you know, pray for understanding. You know, pray for justice for their family and pray for peace and healing. You know? So, I wanted to bring this video to y'all today and let y'all see what y'all think about it. Get in the comments and let me know. I appreciate all my, big shout out to all my A1 Day Ones. Big shout out to those that just be glancing in. And a special shout out to the new subscribers. I appreciate y'all, fam. And till the next time, you already know, it's your boy.
I just got in a whole brand new bag. I'm running around. Jewelry moving like juice. Look, I just leveled up, I thank God.